Welcome to my channel, Carlson Stocks. Do you know the true cost of buying a home? Do you know what the hidden fees are, what the long-term cost is and the short-term cost is for you? Well, let's find out. Let's find out exactly what you need to be able to actually buy a home, what it's going to cost you, and what you can expect. So, before we get started, I need you to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and hit the bell for notifications because we are trying to grow this channel to the moon, and I need your help to do that. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So the true cost of buying a home varies depending on your credit score and the type of money that you have to put down. So obviously, the better your credit score and the more money you have down, you're gonna be in a better position, but there are ways for you to pay less with less money. So the issue with this subject is that people don't always realize how much money they actually need to buy something. They think I need this down payment, and that's all they think about. They don't think about the closing cost or the fees associated with buying a home. So let's talk about that now. So if you are the top of the pickings, you know, you're conventional, you have great credit score, depending on your lender is going to depend on your overall closing cost and your payments in the future. Also depending on the type of home you're looking for. What are some of these costs? And you see on this list that I can't see, but you can see because I'm gonna put it over the screen, is there are fees associated. There's such fees as lender fees, origination fees, title fees, tax preparations is a credit to you. You have insurance fees, premiums. You have all these things on here that people don't think about when they're thinking about buying a home. What does that look like for you? Depending on your lender, and it could be, it ranges from anywhere from 2.5% to 3.5%, depending on what your buying power is and what your down payment is and your credit score. If you're conventional, expect to have that down payment plus, let's say this average of 3% for closing costs. So if you're putting 20% down on a $200,000 home, expect to have around $6,000 worth of closing costs. Now, assuming that in your state taxes are prorated, this closing cost might be offset by some sort of tax proration. So looking at that $200,000 home, you're got a mortgage for say $160,000 and you have the closing cost of $6,000 if you're averaging 3%, and you have the tax proration of let's say $3,000. Then now your closing cost drops a bit because you have that tax proration. If you look at your fees in conventional, there's not as many. And that's one reason why it's cheaper in the short run and in the long run. Now let's go to the next one. If you are cash, obviously you have less in closing costs. You don't have any lender fees. You don't have to get the private mortgage insurance premium. You don't have to do any of that, right? You don't have to put away money for taxes, none of that. No down payment, you're just paying straight cash. So your fees are gonna look a little different, and it's going to be literally just title fees, and that's it. And I think that's a couple $100 for you to close on that. Not much at all. But going over to FHA, this is people with lower credit scores, and this is typically a higher closing cost and a higher interest rate area for FHA. So the cost for you might be higher. Don't worry, we're gonna go into more specific numbers in a bit. You have FHA. FHA has different fees. It has the appraisals are typically more expensive that I've noticed. You have the private mortgage insurance premium that you have to pay up front before you close on it. You have an origination fee on an FHA loan. And there are a couple other fees that I'll show over right here is for you to look at. So pause it if you want to look at it. If not, it's gone. There's your fees. USDA, a bit different as well. A USDA is 0% down. And you have the closing costs are typically a little less than over here, and I'll show it right here so you can look at it. VA, obviously, that one's a little different. The VA is no down payment and no closing costs in some cases. Now, as far as down payments go, conventional, you can put anywhere from 3% to as high as you want, and that's going to affect your receipt. If you have private mortgage insurance, if you go less than 20% down, you're going to need private mortgage insurance on a conventional loan. At FHA loan, it's a 3.5% down, and no matter how much extra you put down, you're always going to need that private mortgage insurance. So if you're doing an FHA loan, you have the private mortgage insurance premium, but you won't have private mortgage insurance premium on a conventional loan. So if you're doing 3% down FHA versus 3% down conventional. There's not going to be the private mortgage insurance on the conventional loan, but there will be on the FHA loan, and that tends to be pretty expensive. I'll show it right here. Origination fee as well. Most of the time the conventional doesn't have origination fee. If it does, it's pretty small, and I'll put that up here as well for the conventional. For the FHA on the same one. So difference between conventional and FHA. Conventional, you don't have private mortgage insurance premium. You don't have the poor mortgage insurance premium at closing, no matter how little you're putting down. FHA, you do. Doesn't matter how much you put down. The conventional loan, a lot of times they have lower interest rates, which means lower payments throughout time. FHA tends to be a little higher interest rate. Conventional, you have the private mortgage insurance on a monthly basis if you put less than 20% down, but it falls off as soon as you hit at least, I think it was 78%, or no, if you hit 22% equity in the home. FHA, it never falls off unless you refinance in the future. So if you get your FHA loan at a really low rate and then the rates are sky high over here and you want to refinance in the future, you won't be able to, because you're going to have an even higher down payment, even though you're paying private mortgage insurance premium for the entirety of the loan. So something to keep in mind. So that's an extra cost people don't realize. And this is about the percentage of the monthly percentage of mortgage insurance every month right here. Like I said earlier, there was a tax proration to you when you're buying a home in Indiana. Sometimes you can waive this to make your offer look more competitive if you're competing, if you have the extra finances for it. But if you cannot waive it, then you have the extra buffer from tax proration. Now, sometimes tax prorations could be $800. Sometimes they're $20 because the person's a veteran, disabled, and a senior, and they have a homestead exemption, so it's like $50 for you. Or it could be an investment property, so you have, $4,000 in a tax proration to you. Just so it varies. So don't ever rely on a tax proration to be able to afford the home, unless you're really squeezing and trying to make the best offer possible. Some other costs involved in this would be, say, your inspections. So your inspections, your appraisals, anything that you want to get moving forward is going to be a cost for you as well. So at the end of the day, assume a 3% closing cost and potentially 3 to 3.5% closing cost for a FHA. Now, as promised, there's ways to get it without having to pay extraordinary amounts for closing and your down payment. Some people, if you have a good enough credit score and you can go conventional with 3% down, you could also get Indiana housing. Indiana housing will give you up to 6% of your overall purchase price. So or loan type, whatever it is, but overall 6%. So if you're putting 3% down conventional, and you can assume that you're going to have about a 3-ish% in closing costs, Indiana housing could potentially cover your closing costs and your down payment, plus the tax proration, which could cover some extra and maybe give you money back. If you're FHA and you're doing, a Indian housing, or you're doing Chenoa, because Chenoa allows you to go lower. I believe Chenoa, you can go as low as 620 credit score. So it's much lower than the Indian housing, which is, I believe, like 640 or something. Chenoa can go pretty low. I don't remember the exact numbers. Maybe I'll put it right here. So that'll give you your down payment, but it won't give you extra for your closing costs. So keep that in mind. Moral of the story, closing costs can be everywhere. It's way too complicated to put into a 10-minute video or whatever this video is at this moment. Instead of trying to go through the nitty-gritty of every single thing, because you're probably confused, because I'm a bit confused. The closing cost ranges. If you have a good credit score, it could range anywhere from get money back to as low as your down payment plus 2.5% or 3%. If you have a lower credit score, your cost to close could be anywhere from, say, 0.5% to as much as 7 or 8%. Long term, if you have private mortgage insurance on the FHA loan, that's going to cost you more in the long run. If you have private mortgage insurance on the conventional loan, it's going to cost you less in the long run. Things to keep in mind: you need money to close. Assume you need your down payment plus 3%. Assume that. If you got value from this video or you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, click this video because YouTube thinks you'll love it, and I'll see you in the next one.